Your life as every level of RAW's most dangerous field operatives. Level 1. The Selected. The letter arrives from a department that doesn't advertise. It's not marked intelligence, it's not marked secret. It comes on paper so ordinary you almost throw it away. A date, a building on Lodi Road, a room number, nothing else. You've been watched for a year without knowing it. Your professors at Jawaharlal Nehru University were asked about you. Your travel to Nepal last spring was logged. The phone call you made to a cousin in Lahore, legal, innocent, created a file that sits on a desk you'll never see. The man who asked you for directions outside your hostel in Varanasi wasn't lost. None of this is explained to you. It doesn't need to be. You are 24 years old. You speak Hindi, Urdu, Nepali, and serviceable Bangla. You have a postgraduate degree in international relations. You scored in the top 3% of a written examination you took, believing it was for the Indian Foreign Service. It wasn't, or rather, it was for something adjacent to the Foreign Service, something that doesn't have a recruiting brochure. The Research and Analysis Wing was established in 1968, carved from the Intelligence Bureau by a man named Rameshwar Nath Kao, who believed that India's external intelligence should not be run by policemen. Kao built RAW from nothing, and what he built was designed to be invisible. There is still no RAW Act. The organization exists through executive order. There is no public budget line. There is no official address you can mail a complaint to. You enter this structure at the bottom. Your desk is in a building that is officially a Ministry of External Affairs sub-office. You analyze open-source material, Pakistani newspapers, Bangladeshi political journals, Chinese official statements, and you write reports that are read by people whose names you don't know. Feedback arrives as edits. Approval arrives as silence. Your stipend is 68,000 rupees a month. Clean, nothing opaque about it, nothing that would make a bank clerk look twice. You tell your family you work in government policy. They don't ask more. Government policy in India is vast and deliberately obscure. They're proud. They don't notice that you've stopped talking about your work entirely. Level 2. The Machinery. 14 months in, you're relocated. The new assignment is in technical support for human intelligence operations, the bureaucratic term for the scaffolding that keeps field officers alive. You track movements through coded logs. You manage cover identities on paper, processing documentation that allows someone in Chittagong or Colombo to be someone they are not. You learn the architecture. RAW's external operations are organized around regional desks: Pakistan, China, Southeast Asia, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and each desk operates through a chain of stations embedded in Indian embassies under diplomatic cover. The Technical Intelligence Division handles signals. The Strategic Analysis Division handles long-form thinking. The Special Operations Group, established after the failures of the 1971 war's chaotic intelligence picture was analyzed, handles the missions that require a different kind of officer. You learn the name Vikram Sood. He served as RAW Chief from 2001 to 2003 and understood better than most how the organization functions in the gap between official policy and operational reality. You learn the name B. Raman, the counter-terrorism head through the 1980s and 1990s, who tracked the ISI's financing of militant groups with a precision that influenced operations you'll later learn were run on his findings. These are your institutional ancestors. You read their declassified notes the way a medical student reads case files from senior surgeons. The first moral compromise is administrative. You process a cover identity for an asset embedded in Karachi. The name is real, a real Pakistani citizen whose identity has been adjusted, replicated. If the real man ever travels internationally, there may be complications. You don't know who he is. You process the documents. You don't ask. You tell yourself this is how it works. You're right. Level 3. First crossing. Kathmandu is not what people think it is. For Ra, Nepal is not a neighboring country. It is a corridor, porous, historically intimate, and strategically irreplaceable. The open border means ISI operatives move through Nepal the same way water moves through a crack. Your first field posting is Kathmandu Station, embedded inside the Indian Embassy on Line Shore Road, under the cover of a junior trade attaché. Your first real assignment is contact verification. A source within Nepal's Communist Party, UML, has been providing information about Chinese financing of infrastructure projects in the hill districts, projects that include road construction with dimensions that exceed civilian need. You meet the source at a tea house in Thamel. He thinks you're a correspondent for a policy journal. You order tea you don't finish. You watch the room. You confirm the face matches the photograph. You have a 20-minute conversation about Himalayan trade routes that sounds like journalism and functions as intelligence gathering. You leave before him. You take a different route back. You write nothing down during the meeting. In your report that evening, you note that the source is reliable, slightly anxious, and motivated primarily by resentment towards the party leadership rather than by any ideological alignment with India. This is important. Ideologically motivated sources flip. Personally resentful ones are more stable. They're not serving an idea, they're serving a grievance. You learned this from a training module developed in part from the debriefs of Ravindra Kaushik, an operative who lived under deep cover in Pakistan until he was eventually burned. His case is studied as a lesson in the sustainability of identity. You think about him on the flight back to Delhi. Not with sympathy, with calibration. You are calibrating. Level 4. The operator. 3 years in, maybe 4. The timeline blurs. You have a designation now that means something inside the building, but nothing outside it. Your handler reports to you as often as you report to him. You run assets, real assets, not contacts. People who have embedded themselves in places that matter. A journalist in Dhaka, a bureaucrat in Colombo, a civil society operative in a province where civil society doesn't really exist. You manage them, their fear, their greed, their families, which are leverage you hold gently, the way you hold a match near paper, close enough to mean something, never touching. You clear operational expenses that would make a corporate executive's eyes water. $60,000 in 6 weeks for an operation in the Northeast that produces intelligence that prevents something you're never explicitly told about. You learn not to need the full picture. You need your corner of it, and you keep that corner clean. The moral landscape at level 4 is no longer a question of right and wrong. It's a question of outcomes and exposure. You don't ask whether something is ethical. You ask whether it's traceable, whether it holds, whether it leaves seam. This is not corruption, you tell yourself. This is operational maturity. Your personal life, whatever remains of it, is structured around absence. You can't explain your travel. You can't explain certain calls. You can't explain why sometimes you go quiet for 3 days and return looking like you've slept wrong every night. The people who love you learn to accept the gaps. The ones who can't don't stay. You tell yourself this is the cost of the work, that the work matters more. Some days you believe it completely. Some days, usually 2 a.m. in a hotel in a city that doesn't know you exist, you don't. But 2 a.m. passes, the morning always comes, and in the morning, you are always the operator again. Level 5. The architect. There are operations and there are frameworks. You now build frameworks. Influence operations in Sri Lanka. Post-war, post-LTTE, Colombo is a city being courted simultaneously by India, China, and the West. You design the matrix, which ministers, which business leaders, which media organizations can be nudged, financed, or leveraged to keep India's strategic interests central in Sri Lankan policy thinking. You don't call it what it is. Nobody does. It's called strategic communication support in the internal memo language that gives every uncomfortable thing a clean bureaucratic face. The work of R.N. Kao in the early 1970s, when Raw's support for the Mukti Bahini was instrumental in creating Bangladesh, is the operational precedent everyone references without naming directly. Kao understood that the most effective intelligence work isn't the gathering of secrets, it's the shaping of conditions. You are shaping conditions. You spend time in Colombo, not based there, visiting under rotating covers, a development consultant, an academic attending conferences, a representative from a think tank with opaque funding. In Colombo, you meet counterparts from Mossad who are doing the same thing you're doing, but for different clients. You have a drink together. You don't introduce yourselves by real names. You understand each other completely. The psychological shift at level 5 is the disappearance of the distinction between the operation and yourself. You don't turn off analytical thinking anymore. You walk into a dinner party and you have profiled every person in the room before the first drink arrives. You identify leverage. You identify access. You identify who might be useful. You do this automatically. You don't choose to. Your wife, you married between level 2 and level 3, a woman who knew what she was accepting and accepted it anyway, tells you one evening that she feels like you're always somewhere else. She's right. You don't know how to fix it. You're not sure it can be fixed. You're not entirely sure you want it to be. Level 6, the shadow. You are now one of approximately 11 people in the organization who have what the internal classification system calls full-spectrum access. This means you read files that are compartmentalized from the rest of RAW, not because you're senior. Seniority is the public hierarchy. This is the operational hierarchy, which doesn't correspond to titles. You were present in 2016 in the discussions following the Uri attack, when the decision is made to conduct what the government later calls a surgical strike across the line of control, and what you know from the inside involved a more complex intelligence preparation than what was publicly described. The targeting data, the route mapping, the post-operation deniability framework, these were not produced by the Army alone. You were part of the infrastructure that produced them. You attend a meeting in South Block where a minister you respect, a man who has served India with genuine integrity, asks a question about an operation that would require lying to Parliament about the nature of an action. He doesn't know he's being lied to in the meeting itself by the framing of the brief he's receiving. You say nothing. This is the moment you remember most clearly. Not any operation, not any asset burned. This meeting, this silence, the minister nodding, satisfied, leaving the room. You tell yourself that the information he didn't receive would have been a liability to him, that this was protection. You've become very good at telling yourself things. Level 7, the ghost. Your name doesn't appear in any staff directory. Your official position, if anyone looks, shows a senior consultant attached to a policy institute in Pune that exists, has real researchers, publishes real reports, and is, 3 layers down in its funding architecture, linked to a trust that is linked to a ministry that has no public interface with RAW. The cover is 11 years old. It has survived 2 RTI filings and 1 investigative journalist who got close enough to publish something vague and inaccurate. You manage a network that extends from Islamabad to Xinjiang to Dhaka, not directly, through 7 layers of intermediaries, each of whom knows the adjacent layer. You have read the classified portions of the Kargil Review Committee report, not the published version, the full document,
and you understand the structural failure it identified, that Indian intelligence in 1999 was organized to prevent information from flowing upward as much as it was to gather it. You have spent a decade trying to fix that. Whether you have succeeded is a question you genuinely cannot answer, because success in intelligence work is invisible. Failure leaves bodies and headlines. You haven't made the headlines. You don't know if that makes you good at your job or simply careful. Last year, an operation you seeded in 2017 produced intelligence that contributed to the arrest of an LET financier in Dubai, an arrest officially credited to Emirati authorities, which is accurate in the sense that Emirati officers made the arrest. The financial trail that led there and the 3-year cultivation of the source inside the network was yours. There will be no record of this, no acknowledgement. The satisfaction is theoretical. You feel it theoretically. Level 8, the architecture. You don't have meetings anymore. People come to you. Not frequently. This isn't about authority. It's about a different kind of gravity. You have become a repository of institutional memory in an organization that officially maintains no institutional memory. The things you know, not secrets exactly, but the connective tissue between secrets, the understanding of how particular outcomes were achieved, what the real cost of particular decisions was, exist nowhere else. Ajit Doval became India's national security advisor in 2014. His history as an intelligence officer, his cover operation in Pakistan in the 1980s, where he lived for years as a Pakistani citizen named Imtiaz Hossain, his founding of the Vivekananda Research Foundation as a policy influence vehicle. These are known, at various levels of detail, to various people. What you know about how certain decisions were made in the decade before he became NSA is known to almost no one. This is the thing about Level 8. You are not powerful because of your position. You are powerful because of what you cannot unknow. The isolation here is different. It's not loneliness. You've made peace with the structural impossibility of ordinary intimacy. It's a kind of thinning. The texture of civilian experience has worn away over 2 decades of viewing the world as a system of leverage points and failure conditions. You can remember being moved by things, art, a piece of music, the view from a train window in Rajasthan. You remember it the way you remember a fact, accurately, without feeling. You live simply, a flat in a quiet part of Delhi, a routine that is unremarkable to the building guard who has worked there for 9 years and doesn't know your actual name. You carry no weapon, you carry no badge, you carry information that is more dangerous than both. Some evenings you walk along the Yamuna, not toward anything, just the sensation of moving through the city that the organization exists to protect. You think about what protection costs. You think about the minister in that meeting, still in office, still making decisions inside a framework you helped construct, still believing he understands the architecture of what he oversees. He doesn't. You do. That asymmetry is the final thing, the deepest thing. Not power, not control, just the permanent, irreversible weight of understanding a system from the inside, while everyone outside believes they're seeing it clearly. You have served India. You believe this genuinely. You have also become something that India cannot officially acknowledge existing. Those 2 things are not contradictions. They are the same thing, seen from different angles. Somewhere in a building on Lodi Road, a young man is sitting in a chair that faces a one-way mirror. He speaks 4 languages. He has an impressive degree. He was watched for a year before this room. He thinks he has been chosen. He has. He thinks this is the beginning of a career. It is the beginning of a transformation with no return point, in a direction he cannot see. The door opens. He stands. He doesn't know what he's walking into. He will.